All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters with Ken and Shar. So glad that you've joined us for today's episode. As you know, we are in a series titled Becoming a Power Couple. And don't be confused with what we think a power couple is with what the world says a power couple is. Very, very different, okay? So this is probably 6 or 7, maybe even 8 episodes of the type of virtues and attributes that we see constitute a true power couple in the Lord, a marriage that really does put on display the attributes of Jesus and the beauty of Jesus as a husband and a wife love each other unconditionally. So that's what we consider a power couple. And Shar and I decided at the beginning of this that we wanted to sprinkle in throughout this series interviews with couples that we know, some of them we've known many, many years, that actually put on display these virtues that we're talking about. So our first episode in the series was the power of vision. And we talked about how necessary it is. Even the scripture says without vision or a revelation from God, people wander aimlessly or they cast off restraint. That's from the 29th proverb. And this couple that we're going to share an interview with in this episode, Jay and Erica, have been wonderful friends of ours for a long time. And man, they have, for all the years we've known them, maintained a really rock solid, powerful vision for their marriage. And that vision has been challenged many times with many interruptions in their life and unexpected detours and hardships. And yet their vision for what God wants to do with their marriage specifically has remained rock solid. So we think they're a great couple. We think you're going to love them as much as we do. So what we're going to do is play back that interview that we had not long ago with them and introduce them to you. So I hope that they're as much of a blessing to you as they have been to Shar and I over these many years of friendship. I think you're going to love them. So here we go. This is an interview with Jay and Erica, very good friends of ours. Hope you enjoy it. All right. So we're really happy to have our good friends in here in the podcast with us. This is Jay and Erica. Hey, man, I just want to thank you guys for agreeing to be interviewed for this particular podcast. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, happy to join you guys, and this is always an enjoyable topic for us. And anyway, so yeah, thanks so much for having us.
This is actually the second interview we've done with you guys. So that means we think highly of you guys, right?
Either that, or hopefully people are listening. One of those two.
Or nobody else is answering the invite, huh?
Well, that's always a possibility.
And we're also doing our very first remote recording on this episode. So we hope it goes well.
Well, yeah, if we can pull this off, it opens up a whole new arena of people that we can interview for the program and get other input in here other than Charlene and I. So we really do appreciate you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little recap. You guys are coming in right after the very first episode of a brand new series that we started called Becoming a Power Couple. And without rehashing all of that, it dropped just this past Wednesday. So you guys will be kind of an example, hopefully, of what we're talking about when we talk about a power couple, because it's not what the world defines as a power couple. In fact, it's almost the opposite. We define a power couple as a couple who obviously reflects something of the beauty and the wonder of who Jesus is through their married life. And that's not necessarily what the world calls a power couple. I mean, we gave some examples, Jay-Z and Beyonce. We gave examples of a half a dozen that are no longer even coupled, right? And yet we're called by the whole world a power couple. So we're talking about something very different. And of all the couples we know, we're so glad you guys accepted the invitation, because you guys really do, at least in our opinion, and as well as we know you guys do reflect the love of Jesus in a wonderful way.
And also the circumstances of your life right now with all the changes, it's a great time to interview them, don't you think?
Absolutely. So we start off with a question. We probably did this with you guys last time too. I don't remember, but I bet we did. So let's start off with a common question we ask. Married life, easier or harder than you originally thought?
Harder, a little harder.
A little harder?
A little harder, much harder.
There you go.
But yeah, I think harder, I would say that too, but less so because of the interrelational stuff and
Mhm.
more just because of the what happens in life, right? You get it, if you kind of follow the traditional path, you get married young and you're entering that, especially in our society, if you're in your teens and then your early 20s, you probably haven't, I guess I shouldn't overgeneralize. A lot of people deal with a lot of difficult stuff by that age, but we didn't. We grew up in, two-parent households and, had a very good foundation and model for marriage and entered marriage that way. And then life starts happening, right? Jobs and kids and money and all the really challenging things. And so that's what I found made marriage harder. Less about Erica herself. We've frankly always gotten along and over the years we have become closer friends, which is what I think everybody really wants, right? Is they want this thing to get better as the years go by. That's really been true for us. So that's what I would say contextually for us is it's really been about all the things life has thrown at us that have been challenging.
You make a great point. I think just doing life, it just pounds and pounds and pounds on a marriage and makes the whole challenge of married life, which is challenging anyway. We talk about it often. There's even a whisper that it's kind of supposed to be or expected to be because we're fallen. And the Bible kind of gives us a whisper of that when it says to the women, your desire shall be for your husband, yet he shall rule over thee. And that passage, that little sentence there kind of is pregnant with the idea of there being conflict
Mhm.
between the two, husband and wife in their respective roles. So I think it gave us a warning. It's supposed to be hard. Paul talks about it being difficult, even in I think 1 Corinthians 7 there, where he talks about, look, if you want to just care about the things of God and live a cushy little life following Jesus, then don't get married, man. Because you're going to have to care about earthly things at that point when you do. And certainly, marriage is made even more difficult by just the pounding, or like waves on a seashore, uh, pounding away at that love relationship. You bet. Well, I know for our point, let's get to our first question. I'm looking at Charlie. We didn't start with much of a vision. I was a brand new believer when we married. I'd been saved under a year, I believe. Something like
Yes,
was I saved
about
even a year?
under a year, and I had no vision except I wanted to get married because I loved you.
That we
That's
didn't know
it.
much more than that.
Uh,
We were, like,
mhm.
passionately in love and couldn't wait to be together. But if you'd have asked, has the Lord given us any idea of what the culture of our home or a financial picture or in terms of our gift sets and serving Jesus and being kingdom-minded people? No, we were we were a blank slate, right? Now, it came over time. We were really pressed into those things to seek the Lord about those things, but we wouldn't say we had much of a vision from the Lord at all, right? And the scripture tells us without vision, people cast off restraint. They're aimless, right? So, in some regards, we were kind of an aimless couple, just working our way through. Where were you guys in your walks with the Lord when you first got married? Would you say you had a well communicated sense together on the same page of the different spheres of your life and what the Lord wanted to do with you in those spheres?
Oh, it's a huge question. I think
It's loaded. Yeah.
y- well, it's all encompassing. I think we did receive good counsel. And I think I mentioned earlier too, we both had a decent model growing up, which I think is huge, right? It's just, and frankly, growing more and more rare. One of the, I just say as an aside, one of the greatest things a couple can do for their kids is to simply model marriage reasonably well. Like, just, um,
Yeah.
but, in terms of launching them into the rest of their lives. Uh, so we had some counsel early on and reflecting on that, it had value. It was pretty practical in nature, not real vision setting. But, hey, you guys might want to think about money. You might want to think about how school is going. You might want to think about, what's your plan for when kids come along? Is mom going to stay home or so many couples nowadays, that's a big fight, right? Like husband expects her to keep making money and she wants to stay home, or vice versa. She doesn't, so.
I just want to interject, Jay, that Kenny and I did have that plan, that I was going to stop work after I had my babies and stay home. I remember talking to him on the freeway about that before we got married.
Well, it's funny you say that. I was just about ready to ask, honey, did we even talk
Yes,
about
we
those
did.
things?
We did. So that just reminded me of that. So we did have that vision.
Awesome.
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
But that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so some of the things we had clarity on, but it was very practical in nature, and it was not very like it was biblical in nature. We were both saved prior to being married. In teenage, or in Erica's case, even earlier than that. So, so there was some sense of these that was the framework we were entering. It wasn't really well developed, brought a lot of bad behaviors, sin even into the relationship that complicated things. But some things were framed up, I guess is the best way I could say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, hon?
I think that's probably true. I think we were like-minded. I would say like-minded, maybe not vision, but we had received some counsel and we both thought, well, this is kind of what we were going to do. The money thing was hard at first. That definitely
Okay.
wasn't. Our first disagreement was over money.
It was work over money. It's a funny story, but we had a shared sense of the obligation to be wise with money,
Mhm.
which I think is not. I know a lot of couples are not on the same page
That's
there.
a big deal.
So I was working, and we'll just say that I was grouchy when I realized that I couldn't buy the petty thing I wanted to buy because we didn't have enough money for it, and I blamed Erica for that. Which was not fair. But but we had a shared sense of the obligation to be financially wise. So I think that's, big picture, small picture, right? Like that big picture wise, we were in a pretty good spot there. Small picture wise, we were learning how to do this thing, in those moments.
So let me ask, did you guys have, we call it a mechanism. Was there a mechanism in place from the start of your guys' married life that allowed you each to communicate, hey, babe, I feel like this needs to happen, or I'm sensing in the Lord that this needs to happen? Did you have a mechanism like that in place, or was it harder to bring something maybe that someone felt a need for change or for advancement, or for transition, doing things differently? Again, whether that is financial life, intimate life, extended family life, and dealing with parents and in-laws and all of that, career issues. Was there an open communication, or was communication difficult for you guys?
I think at the beginning it was difficult because, of course, you're two people that have just become or have just been married. And so you're learning how to communicate with each other. And it was a little
Right.
and rough at first. It was, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we fell into a pretty traditional trap. Like the communication method was, when I wanted to communicate something, it was, you now need to pay attention to me. I have something important to do. And I think conversely, Erica's communication method was, I'm going to now treat you badly, silent treatment or cold shoulder or whatever it is, because I don't like something that has occurred, and you're going to be left wondering what it is.
Mhm.
So
Well, it sounds like you were eavesdropping over at Kenny and I. That's
right.
exactly our scenario also when we first got married, and
Yeah.
sometimes even to this day, at times.
She would feel a little, not listened to or even bullied, and then she would withdraw, right? That would be her response, would be to withdraw, which sounds like that's what Erica would do too, Pretty common, man.
Oh, I was just going to say, very common. It was really the advent of the concept of humility in this relationship that changed communication. Both parties have to be humble enough to approach that better. I now, looking back on it, know what that looks like. But at the time, we needed counsel on that. We needed, a church community to come in, speak in those truths into it. And then you realize, oh, okay, this is arrogance. This is dominance. These are not it's the world, right? It's the world's, anyway, power couple, to your point.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. But see, what you're bringing up is our point, that's what we're talking about when we talk about vision or revelation from God. He breaks into habits that are ingrained, bad wiring, right, between husband and wife, and in comes some revelation. You mentioned humility. That had to come to you. God had to, by the Spirit, massage something in you that went, okay, that change has to happen. And that's happened to me many times. That's exactly one of the things in fact, the power of humility is one of our episodes that we're going to do in the next 2 or 3. But that doesn't come, that comes by God bringing vision to a wife and her husband, that it breaks up the bad wiring and the hard wiring that's already going haywire, right? And brings forth transformation and change. That's exactly what we're talking about, because somewhere the Lord had to show you that, right, Jay? That humility, you have to come to that.
Yeah, that and 100 other components too. But yeah, that one I think I was reflecting on the larger topic that you've presented to us. And I
Right.
thought, boy, if I had to pick a word for what defines a power couple, it's called mutual humility.
There it is.
Uh, so yes, completely agree. I think that, we received that counsel, even with you guys years ago. But also just in that church community, or you get it, people can get it in different places, but to your point, it's God revealed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, that's a really big deal. It's a great example of what we're talking about,
I think now to answer, we had to have a conversation yesterday, and I waited until a quiet moment, and then I went out to him and I said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this topic." And while it was kind of a hard topic, our habits now, or the way we communicate when there's something that needs to be discussed, is much different.
You picked one where I'm not particularly proud of the way I reacted to that one. I got a little grumpy about that one, but I will say with clean conscience, I really did listen. She did come to me quiet. My reaction was a little more aggressive than I'd tried to do, but I really did listen to her perspective. Anyway, that one was a tough one. So,
but don't you think in general,
we now both are pretty comfortable with the principle of being able to come. Usually we're also both wise enough to wait now for an appropriate moment. Not trying. I mean, not always. I tend to force things into moments that are not as ideal as other moments. But Erica can be so busy, sometimes you can't get through unless you make the moment. But anyway, that's my philosophy.
Yeah.
Probably wrong. So anyway, yeah, we now have a habit of that.
Well, it also shows you that no matter how long you've been married and how well your communication is, it has to continue, and you still have to get better and better, and you have to venture in areas that might not be as comfortable as you would like, and there still can become conflict through it. At least I'm talking about our marriage, but yet you have to push through that. But you never reach a point where it's just completely conflict free and everybody's on the same page all the time.
No.
I think that's a misconception in so many marriages. People think, well, we're never going to be what I wish we could because we still have conflict. Yeah, you're going to always have conflict, but it's what you deal with it, how you deal with that conflict. I think that is the key.
Yeah, I think in our last episode, we didn't really, babe, I don't think we drilled down into the importance of this particular mechanism of being able to communicate. When you throw out all those spheres that we desperately need God to speak to, so we have vision, we can thrive, we're going somewhere that the Lord is taking us, whether that is, again, the culture and atmosphere of our home, parenting, extended family, finances, technology, alcohol usage, all these questions about what kind of home is God building here? What kind of marriage is God building here? Our gifts, the kingdom-mindedness of our life, how much volunteerism, our social life. Are we going to open our house to guests and create a home filled with hospitality, a welcoming home, right? These are all really big questions that we find so many married couples have never answered. There is no vision. They're just trying to keep their nose above water and survive the challenges of life, that we talked about earlier. But communication if they can't communicate, if a husband and wife can't have that conversation where, babe, I'm just sensing the Lord, I feel like there's not enough of this. Can we carve out more time in the mornings to talk? Can we increase our together prayer life? Can we talk about how we're going to discipline our children before you go off and discipline them? Can we? And the other one can't even hear it. There's no ability. Well, then there's never going to be a common vision between those two. There'll be no revelation from God that they've settled in on and in agreement, or Sharon, you've used that terminology, on the same page. They can begin to materialize that vision and walk in that vision that the Lord's given them for that particular arena of life, which is just so tragic, because if they can't communicate, it's going to create a stalemate in everything.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that what I hear you say, I also agree, is without resolution to
Oh
some
yeah,
problems as they come up, you will not advance. You simply must be able to figure out how to get into a rhythm of problem resolution or issue resolution. Because I don't know about you guys, do a lot more counseling than we do, but we've kind of done some impromptu because, to your point about if the Lord's at the center of your marriage, that tends to have a gravitational effect, right? People just kind of come and go, well, what's making it work for you? Tell me something
absolutely.
wise to say. And but whenever I hear people in those difficult spots, what I hear is a recitation of every complaint that they have booked over the years in that situation. And what I hear is you guys have never resolved some of these things that, frankly, a lot of them too were easy resolution that you would even agree, if you look back, that one shouldn't have been that big a deal, but we made it a big deal because one of us, or both, probably both of us, got real firm on needing to be right about this issue. And so,
Right.
that, but it all flows through communication. The issues will come. That's a guarantee. You're not getting rid of those. And and the path to solving these things is effective communication. That's how you resolve these problems. But there has to be a heart for resolution too. I think that, and that's interesting because to tie it back to your theme, one of the things I would say about the world's power couple is there's a very there's a strong sense of self-centeredness to what the world says a power couple is. It's about going out and taking for yourself the
Yeah.
world. You're taking the
Yeah.
world. Like you're the prettiest, you're the wealthiest, you're the smartest. That's what makes you powerful. But it's all about taking what you want and what you need. And you can almost, you guys know the simple truth is if you're wondering what to do, just do the opposite of what the world said. The odds are you're
Yeah.
totally on track, right? Like
Right on.
it's so true of this situation too, is it's got to be about communication, humility, a desire to resolve problems, to serve, to sacrifice, to give.
Yeah, I want to fast forward a little bit. Again, I think a lot of vision is the birthplace of a lot of it. I think it has been with us. Maybe it is with most couples, is hardship, is a challenge where it's not working. We don't know what to do. Oh, Lord, help us. And two people press into the wisdom of God and start seeking the Lord for direction. And you guys, I said earlier that your marriage has not been without challenges. And one of them was Adam being born with impaired vision and working through all that, their son. And I can imagine getting a vision for preserving a marriage, all the doctor's appointments, all the travel, all the changes in information, trying to get educated. That's a pressure cooker for a marriage. But you guys did so well, at least outside looking in, you guys tracked really well. So I know that the Lord had to have intervened and been guiding and leading you guys. Talk about that for a minute. Was it a challenging time? Was there prayerful times where God really did have to speak to you both, where to get you on the same page, when how to parent Adam, how to give Adam the greatest life possible? What's that going to look like, right? And now, by the way, he's off to college, which I just think is absolutely a redemptive triumph and so awesome. But talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So shout out to him. he's amazing. Got through high school and second in his class, and is headed off to a 4-year. Yeah, we're pretty impressed with God's grace in this process. It is in many ways is kind of one of those moments that fulfills a sort of an affirmation we received, I think, individually from God in that time, that this was gonna that God knew what he was doing, right? That he hadn't made a mistake, which is, I think, the first thing that anybody's, Christian or non-Christian, the first thing you think when you're faced with this kind of situation is there's some mistake here. Um, um, so we did, I think we both, it was a little differently timed. I was pretty quick to hit my knees because it was kind of that first major life situation where I knew that my own ability was going to be meaningless, right? I could be as smart or as hardworking as I wanted to be. It wasn't going to fix any of this. So it was really just a desperation for the Lord. I think Erica, and I'll let her maybe speak for her own thoughts on that, but yeah, so there was pretty early on, God was there to reaffirm us. It didn't really make it any easier. I wouldn't tell you that I felt like, oh, the burden is lifted. So when you're in a trial, you're hearing this, and you're in some kind of trial that's over you, that's bigger than you, and you are praying, and you feel like the Lord's hearing you, but you don't feel like it's getting any better. He didn't promise you it'd get any better. He didn't say it was going to get easier. He just said he'd be there with you. Like, so, take the reassurance, and we've been through a bunch of different chapters of that, but over the years. But yeah, that changed everything for the two of us, I think. And I think I spoke the words to Erica. I don't know if you recall, but I remember not too long after he was born, kind of saying that we had a choice. We were either going to come together. That I think I spoke this. Either the two of us are going to come together, and this is going to make us stronger as a relationship, and we are going to see, or this is the kind of thing that'll ruin you. So one, do you want it to be? I want it to be us together. And voicing those words. Did I say
Erica,
that?
do you remember that, Erica?
I do remember that, because I think we were just, it was just really hard. And I think Jay came, and we were having, I remember it being in our bedroom is what I was thinking. And you just said, honey, we have two choices here, and this can go, because I think something that you don't realize is when something like that happened, there's a lot of outside noise that comes in. Like, there's different things you have to deal with. You're not just dealing with you and your husband and a kid. You're dealing with very kind people that want to help, and then medical, like all kinds of appointments and things like that. And so it's a whirlwind. It's a whirlwind. That's exactly what I would say. But I think the one thing that God was so gracious to us is that we would have little bumps where we would be worried and anxious about something, a new thing that had come up, but always God has answered our prayers, and even more than we have prayed for. He has been, I wouldn't say, because he's not healed or anything, but he has been given more than the doctors ever said would happen for him. It is clean, just a true blessing. And I think through it, we had a lot of peace. I think where you would think normally you wouldn't have peace. And so but I think that's because we pursued the Lord together. It was, Yeah,
and I certainly sensed, and for the men out there, I sensed a need. I certainly felt the need myself for a closer relationship with the Lord. Both of us were believers, sincere. We knew but pretty casual about just how he was in our life. If we went to church on a Sunday, great. If we didn't make it, no big deal. If I read my Bible once in a week, great. It was just very casual. Use and that I had a strong sense that it's go time now. This stuff's real. You aren't going to be able to do anything about this. Your only path to success through this lies through reliance on him. And so I felt a sense of a need to lead our family into more more participation in a local church setting, I think, is, to put it bluntly. But I think we started hunting shortly thereafter for a small group, and some of the people we were with, and it was a great group.
Yeah.
So the Lord was very gracious to sort of respond to that with some people who were just awesome to be around. So
Well, that's what earlier when I said I think that the womb of a lot of vision and revelation from God is desperation and need and conflict, right? And I think that's what it did. I mean, I'm hearing two versions of vision. One was JU realizing our marriage, we have to track here because we're going to be challenged, right? A lot of couples would not have, maybe not even survived that, right? And then secondly, your own walk with the Lord had to deepen and broaden, right? So that's 2 points of vision that came through that. So, and that's exactly what we've been trying to articulate. I'm so glad that you guys were willing to share that story because uh, in our attempt at our last episode, how vision happens, usually this is the way. We're crying out to God. We need help. We know we're in treacherous waters here that we've never been in before, and the Lord begins to speak something there, and things change as a result of that. That's the kind of vision we're talking about. It's awesome. What about now, you guys? And we're kind of slowly winding down the time now. Have a few more minutes. What about today? You guys, you've weathered that. Adam is off to university. By the way, he's not going where Luke is. Luke's at Purdue, right? Adam's going to another university.
Yep, he's going
right?
to UC Davis, where we went to school. So we're pretty excited.
Oh, good for him. Great. So that leads us right now to currently, okay? Big change in life, empty nest. Erica's wrapped up her job in education at the end of this year, school year. Jay is changing career directions a little bit, taking on a new job. So how's the vision going? Do you feel like the Lord is speaking? Are we hearing the Lord? Is it exciting? What is it?
I think, well, when you say it that way, and I say it that way too, it's like, man, they've got it great. And then you've kind of add a couple other I think we're even having to realize this is a year to year thing. Where our parents are aging. So that's becoming a new chapter in our life. That's a real chapter. I'm sure a lot of folks, go through this. So I think we're realizing what that is. And I think also, maybe you would want to speak to your own kind of trajectory for where to go with this. For me, a new career, I'm optimistic about it. I'm comfortable taking on something new. I feel pretty comfortable. It's definitely changed, but
yeah,
I'm kind of okay with that. I've had a sense, frankly, I'll tell you, even from when I first graduated college, I had a sense that my career was the Lord's career. And I had a lot of failures along the way, but one of the things I did consistently do was kind of submit my career to him, like in prayer. Hey, you tell me what to do. And he's always been so good about that and gracious to us. So that one doesn't really sit on my shoulders too much. But
so I resigned from my job. So now I was just working part-time, but now I'm kind of unemployed. It's a new chapter and it's kind of exciting. And so Jay and I have been talking. We have a small group at our house, which we really enjoy. And so we've decided, well, we might be joining another one and then hosting one again. And then, which is exciting. So we're praying about that. And then I have a women's group that I'm in. And I thought, well, I could take more of a role in that if they had asked. And anyway, and so just learning how to I think we're both still praying about what the fall will look like when our nest is empty and then we have a little bit more time and free time. And so I don't think it's quite clear yet.
I think that, to be honest though, with you, I've noticed in you, and maybe this is to your point, Kenny, about having a vision. I've noticed in Erica a concern over having an empty nest. I think that's a very natural motherly concern. No comment there, no negative, very positive comment about
sure.
that. But that mixed with the folks, I kind of said to Erica, she made the decision to resign, and and was kind of just in the course of that average conversation, I was getting a strong sense from her that there was a lot of anxiety over the unknown. And so this was a moment where I felt like I tried to step in and go, well, why don't we look at this as let's take this as a 1 year increment. We're going to do this for 1 year and we're going to see what changes, right? What the situation with kids, what the situation with parents, what your situation with work or these, these various ministry activities look like. But I felt a strong sense of sort of trying to recast that as a 1 year. I feel strongly about it being a 1 year vision.
Mm-hmm.
You may not. I'm not sure where your head's at on it, to be honest with you, but I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it's
to
good.
be flexible about what comes next.
Well, and I think that listening to you and thinking about even our life and our life in the past, and when we come to these crossroads in life, it does cause some anxiety of the unknown, at least in my heart. And I love how the Lord, when he says that we'll make our plans, but then he'll order our steps so we can always trust him to do and to open up the doors that he wants us to walk through. And actually the vision that I have a lot is like, he's going to show me. He'll show us exactly where he wants us. But the vision that we have overall is just to seek him and to walk where he wants us to walk.
Yeah,
And
and
because
not be striving.
because we live in peace, we need to live in peace together. And I think this whole vision thing is that you just don't want to be caught wandering. Like, I don't know what I wanna do with my life. Well, I don't know what God wants for me to do. There's always a need, and you can meet it until he gives you direct revelation of the paths you should go. He's always got something for us, and to be wandering is the scary part, and as a couple especially, individually and as a couple, that's scary to me because I always want to be productive in while I'm here on earth, and that does take a mindset is that God has something for me.
I was just reading in Numbers chapter 13 as part of our Bible reading. Shari and I kind of going through the Bible in a year, and it was where Moses sends out spies into the land. That's what you guys remind me of. Okay, we're just going to spy the land out right now and see what the Lord shows us. And the result was disastrous because some couldn't respond in faith, right? And that cost Israel another 38 years in the wilderness after that. But I think you guys will respond in faith as you hear the Lord. I'm excited for you guys because your life slowing down, Erica, provides a whole lot of more room now for your marriage to really be enriched in a really great way. And I know the Lord will just be showing you how to do that through this time of transition. It'll be good.
And I would say that in all the other times that we've had big changes or big moves or Jay's changed careers, it's been a little rough on me. I struggled with that. But this time, because we had been praying about it and pursuing, and that when he came to me, he said, "Hey, I think this job opportunity is happening," and whatever. It's completely peaceful, just completely, which is great. So
That is so cool.
Stepping in the right direction. We're following what the doors that the Lord had opened. He's walking through. So it's good.
It's good.
It is good.
That's so awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to turn the corner and start wrapping up. I think Shari and I were talking about how to kind of wrap up this interview with you guys. And I think we'll do this. Let's just kind of throw out a question, maybe a challenging question, but a question nonetheless for any couples listening to the episode today. We talked about the importance of that mechanism to be able to communicate when someone needs to talk about something new happening. I'm sensing the Lord showing me this or that, or that they've got to be able to communicate or they'll never be on the same page and nothing new and fresh will ever happen. Though the Lord may be trying to lead them into new things, it won't get there because they can't even communicate well enough. And so that's the question we have for couples is, does that mechanism exist? Or is it something they really need to resolve and decide we have to communicate better? Come to me, honey, when you need to talk about the future or this sphere of our life, money, our intimate life. parenting, extended family, careers, hobbies, you name it. If they can do that, if communication can happen, then they can hear God and get on the same page and watch out, because really powerful movement starts happening in the direction the Lord has taken. But if they can't communicate about it, they're going to wander for a long time. So that's the big question that we want to offer to the couples listening today is, do you even have that mechanism in place? We hope you do. If not, work really hard at getting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, thanks for being in, everybody, for this episode of Marriage Matters with Ken and Shar, and to our good friends, Jay and Erica. Thank you guys so much for letting us interview you. We are so excited. I got to tell you, we're so excited for this time in your guys' life right now. We can't wait to see what the Lord's doing. I think it's absolutely fantastic, right?
Yeah, very
Maybe
good.
you want to close with anything?
No, do you guys want to say anything before we sign off?
No, just thanks for
You've got the floor last.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. We enjoy these conversations, and certainly and sincerely hope that the Lord maybe uses them in a moment with somebody who just needs to hear that there is a path, even in tough stuff. God's got a path for you. All you got to do is ask for it and approach Him. And we're a living testimony, repeated living testimony of the ability, if you approach Him like that, for Him to find that way through. So
Yeah. He's so faithful, isn't he?
yeah,
He is
yes.
so faithful. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Amen.
Okay, gang. God bless you. Hey, thanks for being with us once again. Can't wait till next time. And until then, God bless you guys. Your marriage really does matter. God bless.
Bye-bye.